3 days left. We have 3 days left. We're going to discuss some crazy things happening across the world, and then we're going to bring it back home. First, we're going to talk about what Iran just said. Then we're going to discuss what Russia just said about our elections. It actually may surprise you, and it helps really prove the media wrong, to be honest with you. Then we're going to discuss the South China Sea. How much shipping goes through there, and how much is China going to hold up, and does that affect your goods? You know, we already are going to see high prices. Well, we've already seen high prices for the last 3 or 4 years. Are we going to see more, especially if Harris gets in, especially with China doing blockades? Big deal. We're going to discuss what's happening in America, some of the things that we're seeing. Things are happening, and it's getting close. The question is, are you willing to step up? And that comes down to men. Men are voting less than women in every election. However, we've seen an influx this election. But remember, Tuesday is it. We need support to get out there for Trump. We're going to talk about those numbers today and a few more details, some more headlines, and all getting prepared for the next 3 days. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up, especially if you like the content. Let us know what you think about this video, because remember, when you comment, it may help someone else get some information that they didn't have before. We're gaining wisdom, trying to build common sense to this crazy world that we live in. Now let's talk about some of the things of today. Now, first thing I want to bring up, and I think it's a good point. Russia-Ukraine situation is bad. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't say Russia's our best friend. I mean, he's an adversary just like China is. However, I think that there's room for us to all just stay out of each other's business. I like this comment that was made from Russia. And again, not that I care what Russia does, but I do think this is a good point. Putin was asked what he thought of Trump, and he said, Trump wants to stop the war in Ukraine. We support him for that. I haven't seen his ideas and how exactly he's going to do that. That's the key question. However, I have no doubt that he is sincere, and we support that his sincerity is real. Now, what that means is this. They're looking for an out, too. What you don't know, and if you go back and actually look at independent journalists, they're dominating on the front. They're pushing their front force more into Ukraine. Now, what this government wants to tell you, and what America wants to say, is we need to keep funding this frivolous war and this situation with Ukraine. But the truth be told, why Zelensky wants to keep fighting, because he keeps getting billions from America and taking our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Putin is saying, look, I'm trying to sit at the table and finish this thing. Now, will there be new lines drawn, and does it benefit Russia? Probably so. But you know, 2 years ago when Russia and Ukraine was willing to sit down, America said no. And actually, Ukraine lost more land because of that. So who's actually the bad guy in this situation? Should we actually listen to what he's saying? Look, I don't know what Trump's wanting to do, but I know, because he's been leader before, that he's willing to be sincere and make this war stop. I think that's huge, because he knows, Russia knows, Putin knows, all we got to do is just turn the spigot off of all that money we're flowing into Ukraine, and the war would be over. As Trump said, and during the transition time, he said I could end this war. And I actually think he could, because it just cuts the funding. Cut the funding, Zelensky won't have a war anymore. And I think that that's huge, because now you're saving lives. That's what I don't understand about this. The Democrats and the liberals and even the Rhino Republicans basically are saying we're funding more deaths to happen. Does this make sense to you? Up in arms about a squirrel online, but we're willing to fund abortions and to fund this war to keep on having so more people die. It makes no sense to me. Let's talk about China and the South China Sea. Now, you know, we sent Coast Guard over there and Navy to try to handle the situation. We've not handled any situation, basically, and this is what happens when you have weak leaders. South China Sea is going to lead to war, is what some experts are saying, because they're going to block the trade. Think of all the things that come through the South China Sea. They said over 25 to 30% of our goods, our grains, our medicines, come through that area that feeds America, that feeds other nations. Just think if you had 20 or 30% of your goods either costing double or not getting them at all. Think if you didn't have access to the things like medicine. Because remember, a lot of that's made in India and China. Think if all of a sudden, if they put extreme tariffs on us what would we do? This comes back to the point that I think Trump made. If we would learn to be more independent in America, we wouldn't be so worried about these trade wars and these trade routes in these regional areas. China really doesn't have a problem with us per se, or Russia or anyone else. They're trying to have a regional conflict resolved with however they see fit. Do I agree with what China's doing? No. But to be honest with you, it's really not our fight. I think before we try to handle world issues, we need to handle America's issues. And I don't think you can do them one and the same. I believe we're literally wasting money and bloated government. And to be honest with you, if we keep trying to dabble in the world's problems, what we're going to see is a problem back at home. I told you before, you can work on your neighbor's house all you want, but when you start having leaks in your own home and electrical problems in your own home and you're not fixing them, then ultimately your home will be the one damaged, not your neighbor's. So we have to make sure that we're preparing back home. I think that comes down to, like Trump said, independence in energy, independence in grain, independence in making sure we provide what we need. Medicine's back here. Why can't we build our own medicines versus buying them all from China and India? We wouldn't be affected by any of this. We wouldn't be affected by the fertilizers and grain problems in Ukraine and Russia. We wouldn't be affected across the world. But no, we want to trade with the world and want to be good players, and ultimately it puts us subservient and also puts us at the beggar's feet when it comes to these trade wars. If we would learn to be more independent, then we show strength. Then we handle these situations to help out other countries. Then we say, well, who cares what China's doing? I'll provide your goods even better, even cheaper, even more. You pay our tariffs, we give you your goods, manufacturers in America grow, and again, our economy is booming. That's the answer. 20 to 30% of your goods goes through this South China Sea, and it's a blockade right now. And again, we're seeing military over there. Don't you think this is going to come out to a major war? Experts actually say this could lead to war. It's amazing. Again, those noodles on the wall, they're sticking because we're starting to see all these signs of conflicts and wars and regions, and America wants to literally be in every one of them. It's amazing. We have people not having food, living homeless, living with disasters in Hawaii, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. Some of these areas that are so devastated, even down to Florida. We're having problems all over America, but no, we can't fix America's problems. We got to go overseas and dabble. If we don't pay attention, we're going to lose our home, like I said, to a leak or electrical issue and burn it down. All the while, we're trying to give all our money across the seas. $487 billion was added to our deficit just October. They said if the government quit spending money, we would actually see the recession that everybody's talked about. But because the public sector and the giving of money is so broad, see where rhinos and Democrats keep giving money to Ukraine, I think a lot of that is because they don't want to actually show you how bad this economy is. Because if they quit spending money, if the government quit spending money, our economy would tank. Let's go back to Warren Buffett, a new report of more shares he sold just this last week. What does he know and what does he see that no one else sees? Warren Buffett in 2024 sold $100 billion in Apple stock. He halted buying Berkshire Hathaway stock, more of his own buybacks. Built the largest cash reserve. His cash he's sitting on is $325 billion, more than most countries have. Holds a record $288 billion just in U.S. Treasury bills. So that means, again, he has power into the government because he sees what's going on. Now that puts him owning more Treasury shares than the Fed. Warren Buffett sees the position where he is now selling more Apple stock. He's dumped Bank of America. He is setting up for a recession. That's exactly what this report says from the Kobayashi letter. That's what I'm talking about. If the government quits spending money, we think that it's just because they're warmongers. Well, they are. But it also has a secondary meaning. If the government quits spending money and added to our deficit, you would see a depression, if not a very bad recession. This is where the blindness comes. They're blinding you with the fact of you getting mad at them giving money to Ukraine and they're getting kickbacks, but all the while they're actually blinding you because this economy is that bad. And if we stop giving, we better figure out how to stop the spigot, and not only stop the spigot, start being independent, because we're going to probably hit some rough waters because we realize how bad this economy actually was when we quit blowing government money. Now let's talk about this election. 3 days away. Atlas Intel, which is one of the ones that predicted the elections for the last few years. And they use algorithms, they use scientific methods, they figure out actually how people are voting. It's amazing. It says, Atlas Intel CEO says if white males turn out for Trump on election day, he will win not only Pennsylvania, he will win the whole Rust Belt. Atlas Intel was the most accurate pollster in 2020. What really makes a difference on Tuesday in a place like Pennsylvania is that the white turnout and the men turn out. If white males turn out, Trump will win handily. This comes back to this being Sunday. This comes back to men being leaders of their homes. This comes back to men not only leading their homes, but also being the one to bear responsibility to take care of what's going on. When we talk about George Washington and the founding fathers, when we talk about all the true good leaders in our past, most of them were men of character. They put responsibility in the fact that we're supposed to work hard. No matter what trials we go through, men are supposed to push forward. We've built a group of men in the last few generations that have almost been worthless. They want you to give them something instead of them working hard for it. Well, now this is where men's got to stand up. We've got to start making better decisions, even when they're hard, even when there's trials. And this is one of them. Men have kind of given their right to vote away. In past elections, they voted 10% less than women. That's about a 15 to 20 million person swing right there. They said if men would just vote. Well, now I push back and say, well, if men, not only men, Christian men would vote. And not vote what they hear on legacy media. Vote their heart, vote their conscience. I mean, again, as a Christian man, can you honestly say that I've seen posts where these men are like, I'm voting for Harris for my children's safety and a right to vote. So what you're saying is, as a man, you deem the responsibility for your children to be able to kill your grandchildren. Now think about that. That's about the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. No matter how many trials you get, and no matter how hard it is, it's time for men to stand up and make their voice heard. Atlas Intel said Trump should win in a landslide, especially if men will vote. Now I put it on you, the responsibility bearer of your home. You know why I get up at 4 a.m. to milk? You know why I try to run every day and work out every day to stay healthy? You know why I literally try to raise everything that you can imagine when it comes to sustainable living and food? Do you know why we try to clean our diets up? You know why we homeschool? Do you know why we don't put a lot of medicine in our kids' system? We're not on any kind of regimen other than supplements and herbs that we pretty much grow ourselves or that are organically raised. You know why? Because it's my responsibility to take care of my family. Well, now let's talk about the responsibility of men across America. It's your responsibility to vote and get this country back. Again, we have one side wanting to tear down trees, kill cows, and butcher chickens, get rid of them, all in the name of putting up man-made, chemical-laced batteries and solar panels along with wind power that's not doing anything. It's amazing how we call them green when they're actually doing the opposite of green. They're killing the landscaping, they're killing the animals that raise good quality crops and also help our world like trees. They want to cut it all down for the green initiative. No, it sounds like a money initiative. Green, all right. Green money, greenbacks. Actually not for the world. Just like RFK's new push for fluoride. One thing we've realized is a lot of this man-made chemicals and a lot of the man-made things that we're putting in food is actually making us weakened. It's making us sicker. And now it's time for men to stand up against this stuff. As this expert says with Atlas Intel, if men would actually take the responsibility, Trump would win a landslide. And that's what I'm challenging you with today. Take the responsibility that you're supposed to have, speak up, and actually do what you're supposed to do. And that means bring America back to its greatness. Think of 1776. Think of all those men who was willing to sacrifice against a tyrant when it comes to Great Britain. Over 2 or 3% tax on tea. And we have men now, including all of us, who is willing to pay 40 or 50% tax, and all we want to do is gripe about it. Well, now, let's use our vote, and let's try to get freedom back to where our First, Second, and Fourth Amendment actually means something again. And what that means is having freedom. And we better start voting like we believe it, that it could end if we don't. If Kamala wins, channels like mine probably won't exist because they're going to censor them. It's time to stand up. So not only do we have an American problem, like a vote, if we allow us not to vote and Kamala wins, this China, this Russia, this Middle Eastern problem is going to get worse. Iran came out and actually stated that they are going to retaliate like no one's ever seen against Israel. That is going to bring a conflict. a bigger conflict probably than we've seen in a long, long time. Remember, we put troops over there. So we could actually, and he actually said, the Khomeini actually said, it literally could be previous to the election of America. Remember, this is the same group that also wants death to America. And again, we gave them tons of billions of dollars to do what they wanted to do and actually not holding their feet to the fire. This is what happens when weak men are weak men and not real men and strong men and willing to make the hard decisions. That's what I like about what this Elon Musk, RFK, Vivek, and Trump team looks like. Vance, Tucker, they're all willing to push against, be prosecuted, be persecuted, lose value, all in the name of making change in America back to where we once were. It's time for a great awakening, and it takes you as real men to stand up. And if you're a woman watching this, make sure your husband is watching this and tell him to stand up for his family, because that's the only hope we got, is to change policy and change the way and pendulum swing this back, because if we allow Kamala at the helm, it's going to get worse. Guys, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this whole situation. I don't mean to rant, but we're getting close to the point where if we don't take responsibility as Christians, as Christian men, as Christian families, we're going to lose everything that we once worked so hard for. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless.